Hi, welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Terry Stiles with Jim Hughes.
And I'm with Terry Stiles. I'm Jim Hughes, and on this edition of Oxford News This Week, our local restaurants finally get a break that they need. The Chamber wants you to save the date, and the Downtown Development Authority finds new temporary management.
All that and more. The Oxford News begins right now. Under the latest epidemic order, the governor announced last week, going into effect on Monday, February 1st, restaurants will be able to open at 25% capacity with up to 100 people. Tables must be 6 feet apart with no more than 6 people per table. Both bars and restaurants must close by 10 p.m. and contact information must be collected from people for tracing purposes. Jim?
In Chamber News, on February 17th from 9 to 10:30, the Chamber will be hosting a state and community breakfast via Zoom. The speakers are Township Supervisor Jack Curtis, Village Manager Joe Medor, and MDOT Representative County Representative Mike Spiz. The State Representative Elisa Slotkin to hear these speakers talk about our local economy. Predictions look for registration details on the Oxford Chamber website at www.oxfordchamber-.net. Check them out there. Terry?
The Oxford Village Council will be holding a virtual town hall meeting on Tuesday, January 26th. So that's this week. Keep an eye on things at 7 p.m. to discuss the proposed marijuana ordinance. The council will receive public input on the latest version of the proposed ordinance, which would allow and regulate adult use recreational marijuana businesses in the industrial zoning district along South Gillespie Street and Industrial Drive. Residents are asked to fill a comment form and return to the village for the virtual town hall. Contact the village for further information, or if you want to see a copy of that meeting, you can watch it here on OCTV. Jim?
A 90-day extension, a temporary emergency ordinance designed to help existing businesses being negatively impacted by COVID and the shutdown, was unanimously approved by the Oxford Township Board. The ordinance allows for temporary outdoor uses, including dining services, mobile food vending units, outdoor retail, and recreation in private spaces such as off-street parking areas, sidewalks, and yards. A copy of the temporary ordinance can be found at the Oxford Township. You can go log onto their website as well, oxford-township.org. Terry?
The Township of Oxford is $100,000 richer due to the sale of property it purchased in 2017. The property was commonly referred to as the Elk View property, which was adjacent to the subdivision with the same name and was sold to the neighbor of the parcel for $600,000. The property is located on the east side of Baldwin Road, south of Hummer Lake Road, and has a long plagued history of drainage issues. Jim.
Starting last week, you might want to jump on this. It's already started. Financial institutions can submit a first draw PPP loan application. A few days later, submit a second draw application for those borrowers who did not receive the initial PPP loan before the program closed in August of 2020. A second draw loan is for certain eligible borrowers who previously received the PPP loan, have 300 employees or less, have suffered 25% reduction in all their gross receipts. Again, you might want to jump on that. That got underway last week. Terry.
Social media continues to call for the ice rink out at Seymour Lake Park to be filled for our pleasure. Last week, the fire department came out, tried to fill up the rink because the temperatures were finally cold enough. We'll see if it worked. Watch this. We had a nice little chat with Jeff Kines. He's the superintendent for parks.
So we're out here today. Today's Friday. We're trying to get a layer of ice down out here. Fire department, as you can see behind us, is helping us out. They've been out here twice now, but the weather, again, is just not helping us out here. We got cold weather coming here next week, the end of this week, so hopefully we can get some ice started. And then once we get it started and it stays, we can build from that and then get this thing going, and we can get people out here, because there's a lot of chatter about getting this thing going and people are excited. And we can't wait to get them out here to do it. So it's going to be great if we can get some ice to go.
So if temperatures are low enough for a good freeze, they were hoping that they could continue to add layer after layer after layer on the rink, but it turns out they've run into a few problems. So please don't come out here with your skates and expect to go skating. They've got some issues still. Jim?
And still at the park, if you're still looking for a place to get rid of your Christmas tree, Oxford Township Parks and Rec is collecting them at the Seymour Lake Park. The staff plan to recycle by chipping them and using them as mulch around the landscaping areas in the beautiful parks that you see in the spring and summer. Thanks to the park staff for everything you do to keep our parks active, all season, usable, and beautiful. Terry.
The Oxford Downtown Development Authority hired interim director Kelly Westbrook to fill the seat left by Glenn Pape, whose contract was not renewed in 2021. Not unfamiliar with Oxford Downtown and the DDA areas, Westbrook is the daughter of Boulevard Boutique owner and former DDA member Sue Olds. Westbrook started learning the DDA ropes last week with the gracious help from DDA assistant Nicole Rankin. That's it for Oxford News this week. If you'd like to learn more about these stories or others, you know what you can do. You can go to our website, occtv.org. You can go to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or Charter Channel 191 and AT&T Channel 99.
All right, you can find us anywhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm Jim Hughes. Thanks for watching OCTV. Again, we want to thank back in the back.
Yay! Alex is back.
Yeah, good to have her back there. I hope you're doing well. And everybody out there, make sure to go out and wear your masks. And if you still got a Christmas tree, bring it down, chip it up.
Yep.
If it's cold, put your skates on, okay?
And if you want to, go out and get that vaccine. I do want to mention this. I did see in both the national news and local news, in both neighboring communities, that schools are pushing for teachers to be kind of first in line for vaccines, which was...
I mean, if they're bringing it back to class, I have to agree with that. I mean, I don't know.
Go out and get your vaccine.
I don't know if I was tough thing. I mean, my kids are, well, not kids, they're young men now, but if I mean, would you feel comfortable with your children going back to school?
Yeah. Kids are not super spreaders, and the teachers are under 65, so that seems to be a pretty safe environment. And the grandmother of 3 boys, they're getting a little wild right now. They're ready to go back. They miss their friends.
So you don't, okay, how about this?
I don't feel bad about them going back.
Maybe the younger ones, what about like the option for like junior high or high school where you're a little bit more governed as a student? Would you say staying home, you're getting as good a quality of education?
Well, no. So there's a lot of single moms out there that have to work during the day, so now their kids are home. I talked to one woman, and she has a child who's ADD, and he's 15. He was an honor roll student until March, and then it's been downhill ever since, because who's there to guide him? You can't really hire a babysitter for a 15-year-old, right? So the kids are ready, and like I said, they're not super spreaders, and really I don't think there's a huge population of teachers that are 65 and older, and those are the ones that are at risk. So the teachers are in a safe
kids back,
place.
I'd say the teachers should be one of the first in line, like a nurse or a doctor or anybody.
Yep, right, frontline people. Like I also think people at Kroger, you know, that are at that checkout. They've been on the front line since day one,
I mean,
and without them we wouldn't have been eating. So they should get them. People over 65, but somehow they're going to get that distribution straightened out.
Hopefully they will. I mean, I mean, and then, you know, not that we want to digress into a whole thing about the COVID, but I mean, then you have new strains coming across the country, and it's like, I mean, we've really creatively thought on how to do things. I mean, everywhere in our lives, and
we're all we're survivors. I mean, that's the general consensus of all of us. I mean, we're all doing what we can to survive. So those masks, wear your masks.
I hear now what I'm hearing, and this will be another thing. We'll get out of here. I mean, I don't want to, but I hear now people are going double masking. Not even one's good enough anymore.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Start a mask company, okay? Make it a good day. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you again next week, God willing. Take care. Have a good week.
My name is Lynn, and I want to star in a movie. Why is that artichoke talking? I'm a pangolin, which basically means my tongue is longer than my body, and I'm pretty much per bowling ball. But the pangolin pièce de résistance? We're the only mammals with scales. Pretty neat, huh? Poachers think so too. You see, people use us for traditional medicine and leather boots. The situation is critical. Averaging about 100,000 goodbyes a year. I have to do something. I have to star in a movie. If I become famous, pangolins will become famous. People will notice us and finally care about us. So guys, help my species become known. In Hollywood, let me star in a movie, please!
Welcome to Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from Automotive News. In our first story, Honda is leveraging a tie-up with General Motors and Cruise to ramp up its new mobility business by importing some of Cruise's newest wheels for use in Japan this year. Under the plan announced January 21st, Honda Motor Company will receive the first self-driving test vehicle from Cruise for assessment in Japan this year. After that, Honda plans to also start a Mobility as a Service, or MaaS, enterprise in Japan using the Cruise Origin autonomous shuttle. The autonomous driving test vehicle, called Cruise AV, will be based on the Chevrolet Bolt. The Cruise Origin is a box-like people mover being jointly developed by all three companies. Cruise is a majority-owned company by GM. Honda spokeswoman Yu Kitagawa said the Japanese car maker is still discussing details and that it is too early to say how many vehicles will be used or when the programs begin. Honda's announcement came as GM and Microsoft led a fresh investment round of $2 billion into Cruise, helping the autonomous car startup leverage Microsoft's cloud computing firepower. Honda and other institutional investors also participated in the new round. The move is an outgrowth of Honda's agreement in 2018 with GM and Cruise to develop and commercialize autonomous new mobility services. Honda Mobility Solution Companies, or HMS, is a subsidiary set up in February of 2020 that will operate the new MaaS business. At the time that Honda said HMS would pioneer new businesses by combining mobility services with autonomous driving technologies, robotics, and energy technologies. Wow. And on the recall front, NHTSA said December 19th that it would require Ford Motor Company to recall 3 million vehicles with potentially defective Takata airbags, rejecting a bid by the automaker to avoid calling them back. The safety regulator said it was denying petitions filed by Ford and Mazda Motor Corporation in which the automakers sought to avoid recalling vehicles with potentially dangerous inflators. The decision will also require Mazda to recall and repair airbags in approximately 5,800 vehicles. The recalls will cover various vehicles from the 2006 to 2012 model years. The defect, which leads in rare instances to airbag inflators rupturing and sending potentially deadly metal fragments flying, especially after long-term exposure to high humidity, prompted the largest automotive recall in U.S. history of more than 67 million inflators. Worldwide, about 100 million inflators installed by 19 major automakers have been recalled. Takata inflators have resulted in the deaths of at least 27 people worldwide and 18 in the United States and over 400 reported injuries. Ford and Mazda didn't immediately comment, however. The vehicles that will be recalled include various Ford Ranger Fusion Edge, Lincoln Zephyr/MKZ, Mercury Milan, and Lincoln MKX vehicles, along with Mazda 2007 to 2009 model year B-Series vehicles. Wow. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and we'll be right back.
From the small to the big. We touch lives every day. What lives will you touch? Join us.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from New Scientist. In our first story, NASA's mole on Mars has failed. After nearly 2 years of attempting to dig the InSight lander's heat probe, nicknamed the Mole, into the red planet's surface, engineers have finally given up. The InSight lander arrived on Mars in November of 2018. Its main purpose is to study the planet's deep interior in order to help us understand the history of the solar system's rocky worlds. The lander has 3 main instruments to help it do that: a seismometer to catch vibrations traveling through the ground, a radio to precisely measure Mars' rotation and gain insight into its metal core, and a setup called the Heat Flow and Physical Properties Package, or HP3, to measure the heat flowing out of the planet's center. The mole is a key part of HP3, a sort of self-hammering nail designed to burrow about 5 meters under the ground, deeper than any human-made device has dug on any rocky planet, moon, or asteroid before. However, once the mole started its ill-fated burrowing attempts, the soil proved unexpectedly clumpy, so it did not provide the instrument with the friction it needed in order to dig. The scientists and engineers working on the mission tried everything they could think of to get the mole into the ground, even pressing down on it with a scoop on InSight's robotic arm. But nothing worked. So after a final attempt on January 9th, the team has now ended their efforts. Researchers on future missions will understand the Martian soil better thanks to the many attempts to bury the mole. While that particular instrument may not have worked, InSight's other tools are performing well. The seismometer has already recorded nearly 500 Mars quakes, and NASA has extended the mission until December of 2022. In our next story, implants coated in bacteria could be used during bone fracture surgery to help speed healing and prevent post-operative infections. When someone suffers a fracture, surgery is sometimes needed to help it mend correctly. A common technique is to use a metal implant to help broken bones stay aligned while healing. The bone fuses to the metal as it mends. Li Tan at Hubei University in Wuhan, China, and his colleagues tested whether coating an implant in the bacterium Lactobacillus casei, which is found in yogurt and could provide recovery. The species is known to regulate the immune environment, which could support tissue generation to release antibacterial substances. To do this, the researchers gave titanium implants to rats with broken tibias. Poor rats. 3 of the rats received standard implants, and 3 had implants coated in dead L. casei bacteria. After 4 weeks, the team found that there was a 27% increase in bone tissue in the rats with the bacteria-covered implants compared with a 16% increase in rats with regular implants. An increase in bone tissue is a sign that the fracture is healing. One potential risk of implants is infection at the site where the implant meets the bone. So the team also tested if their L. casei treated implant was more resilient to infection by coating it in multi-drug resistant MRSA bacteria, which can cause infections. No kidding. After 12 hours, the researchers found that 99.9% of those pathogens were dead. Well, that's a good sign. And that's it for Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny.